The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Writer's Block Podcast NH. This is a podcast designed by writers for writers on the journey to being published. Joined Mandra Biscornet.
It was so healthy and nutritious.
Deborah Monk.
Can we open each podcast with a dance number?
Shelly Devlin.
It was so full of inspiration and sparkles.
Every Tuesday morning live on YouTube. And make sure you subscribe to catch the podcast anytime on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, or your favorite podcast catcher. It's time to be inspired, feel empowered, and be well with the Writer's Block Podcast NH.
And welcome to the Writer's Block Podcast. I'm Mandra.
I'm Debbie.
And I'm Shelly.
Thank you for joining us at the Writer's Block, where our mission is to inspire, empower, and help people be well. We're streaming live today on Facebook at the Studio Podcast Cafe, so be sure to check us out there. And we're really excited about today's show because we have a special guest Skyping in, Dawn Reno Langley. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning. Great to have you. Dawn is actually Shelly's writing coach and editor. Yay, Shelly. And she's also the author of over 30 books, including children's books, nonfiction books on art and antiques, and novels, as well as an academic who's taught at every level. She's a Fulbright scholar, having spent time in Pakistan, and she's also a TedX speaker who advocates for animal rights as well as women's issues. So we are really excited to have you here today, and we're going to talk about all things writing. And I personally wanted to kick it off with having you say a little bit about the coaching that you do and how you coach writers, and what that entails.
Well, coaching is a lot of things. It's helping a person shape their story, whether it's a nonfiction book or a novel or whatever they're trying to write. It's also giving them a boot in the butt if they need it.
Does Shelly ever need a boot in the butt?
Shelly knows all about that. And it's being that cheerleader in the corner. I mean, writing is a very solitary occupation, and it's hard. And most people give up because they don't have somebody who's given them some support. I personally feel that if you give a writer some support, they might do their best work. You show them what works, what doesn't. It should be constructive criticism. I do edit sentence by sentence. I also talk about the developmental issues that are going on in a book. In other words, does this first chapter work? Does it automatically engage the reader? How do you manipulate the rest of the book to follow a format so that publishers will be interested? And if the person isn't ready to or willing to go to traditional publishing, what happens if they want to go self-published? So it's a number of different things. I think of myself as bartender, psychologist, editor, mama. Sometimes just a tease. I have a couple of people that I work with who I need to call or contact occasionally and say, are you doing anything? Are you writing? And that's all it takes sometimes, because people have a problem putting their butt in the seat and their fingers on the keyboard. So that's basically what it's all about.
Yeah, so you offer some nice support to writers when they might be feeling some resistance or just haven't sat down and put pen to paper for a while.
Right. I think a lot of times when you have just an editor, they're going to show you everything that's wrong and make comments about, what doesn't work, but they don't show you how you might make it better. And I think a writing coach helps you make it better and shows you the best way to say what you need to say, or in some cases teases out the best way to write a scene. I just came back from Italy with one of my clients, and we were sitting outside. Okay, a little bit of, this is a jealousy thing going on. We were sitting outside on the loggia at the villa, and we had a scene that we had been trying to work on for a while, and we talked about it, and I finally asked some questions that brought it out a little bit better, and I ended up sitting there typing it for him as he was kind of dictating and manipulating the words a little bit. And it ended up being so much more than what he expected to be that he started to cry.
Oh,
Wow. So you were in, so he hired you from Italy, and instead of doing it.
No, he's in California. He's a chef. And he had a story. His memoir is about his life. And without going into a lot of details, part of it is set in Italy in this villa where he teaches cooking lessons. And he said, I can't get the scenes down. I can't show you what's happening, but I bet you if you went with me, you could see it.
All right, Dawn, I just
seriously,
have to ask.
I would
was he
quit
hot?
doing hair at this point.
Yeah. Was he hot?
He's gay.
That doesn't mean
You didn't
he's not
answer the
hot.
question. I would like to be pointed
If you
out.
want us to really
It's
be
usually
jealous,
a given.
He's Jason
Hot
Momoa.
and gay.
He's cute and he's funny and he's very, very talented. And
As a
I
chef.
think he's got a good shot with this. So
Is he a talented writer? Or he's more a talented chef and he needs the help telling
he's a
the
more
story?
talented chef, which is why he hired me.
Right.
Because I'm better at writing than he is.
Well, that's helpful because I wasn't really that clear on the difference between an editor and a coach, and so that's very helpful. You touched upon something else that I'm fascinated by. What's your opinion on self-publishing versus traditional, and have you tried it both ways?
Self-publishing is it's an area of publishing that has been looked down upon by traditional publishers for a long time, but the industry is morphing. And I think people are realizing the cream rises to the top. There are people who weren't able to get their books, whatever type they are, published by a traditional publisher, and largely because the industry has changed a lot since I started out way long ago. But the truth of the matter is if you just put some schlock out there, it's not going to sell, no matter whether it's self-published or not self-published. But if you use the tools that all writers should use, which is editors, coaches, whatever, then you get a product out there that is decent and you'll sell as long as you have the marketing behind you. Self-publishing is a lot more difficult than traditional publishing, unless you just want to write something for your family. A lot of people have true stories, memoirs that they just really want for their families and friends. And that's wonderful and great use of self-publishing. And a lot of people have successfully self-published novels. I mean, 50 Shades of Grey was originally self-published. Wool was originally self-published. M.J. Rose is one of the most prolific self-publishers. I've done both in a number of different ways. And I actually brought some of my books into my office this morning so that I could show you the different ways that I've used them. I have a series of writers' journals that I self-publish because basically I want control over the whole series. So there's 5 of them out now, and I'll continue to put them out. Do I expect them to be bestsellers? No. But I know the market. I know who would use them. The other way I've used what we call self-publishing is to take some of the books that I had originally published with traditional publishers, and I'm going to show you copies of both of them so that you can see. I got the rights back. What happens with traditional publishing, after a certain amount of time, usually 7 years, the writer gets the rights back to the book, unless the book is a bestseller and the publisher keeps on going with additional copies. But once you get the rights back, you can do whatever you want with the books. And I had never been really happy with the way that these were treated. The first one was All That Glitters, which was my first novel. And the cover I've never been happy with because it's got a naked woman on it. And that's not what the story is about. And the title originally was Amaryllis. Got great reviews. I was nominated for an award. Wonderful. Didn't sell very well, but I blamed it on the publisher. And then because the sales weren't so great on that one, and I'm being totally honest here, the publisher came to me and said, we need you to change your name for the next book so we can give you a relaunch. Now, backtrack a second. This particular publisher had taken me to lunch in New York City with my agent and the president of the company and said, I'm quoting, this is not a lie, we're going to make you a star. My head went, boom. And I probably did some things that I shouldn't have done, like I talked to the sales staff in a way that wasn't appropriate. And they didn't help me as much as they should have. But I didn't really understand that I needed to do most of the marketing myself. Even with traditional publishing, you've got to get out there, you've got to beat the street, you've got to do the marketing. So the next book that they published of mine, they said, change your name and make it something in the middle of the alphabet so you'll fall eye level on the bookshelves.
Wow.
So that's when Silver Dolphin came out. So this one, because I had changed my name, I had to start from scratch with the marketing. And let's face it, writers don't have a lot of money. I ran out of money, so I couldn't do what I wanted to do with that book. So I got the rights back years later, and by that time, self-publishing was really on its own. You know, it had come to a point where some of the books were, like I said, becoming bestsellers. So I decided to republish all my novels that I had the rights back, and I put them into a format that was consistent, pictures-wise, covers-wise, size-wise, etc. And this is the result for those two.
Hold those up a little higher, Dawn.
What?
Hold those up a little higher.
Can you see them?
Yep.
A little more.
A little
A little
higher.
more.
There we go.
There they are.
Okay. So the Silver Dolphin, I put my own name on it. It had never had my own name on it, so I wanted that. And all the glitters, I kept the original title, but I put my own name on that one as well. Each one of the books that I published independently or self-published have similar covers. They'll have a single woman on them. They're all photographs. They're usually from the back. They're not sexy, which I think really degrades women in a lot of respects. So I wanted to, kind of do a series, not a series, but to put all my books out in a way that I could package them myself. Mm-hmm. So that worked for me. And that, to me, even though a bookstore will look at those books and see that they were created on CreateSpace and consider them self-published, they're really not. They were traditionally published and then re-released by me. There's a difference.
Okay.
So I think that self-publishing is really good for people who want to write books that might not be picked up by traditional publishers. As long as the writers understand that it's their responsibility once the book comes out to really promote it, to market it, and to do things that are out of the box.
All right, so that segues us to the next question. What does that mean? What marketing, promoting? What is a writer supposed to do?
That means you have to get the book out to reviewers before the book comes out. There are a lot of independent reviewers. There are lots more than when I first started writing. And they don't necessarily work for magazines or newspapers like they used to. A lot of them are doing it on their own, on Goodreads or on Facebook or on their YouTube videos. Amazon has reviewers that they rate. You have to get the reviewers who are in the top 50 to actually make a difference for your book. And then you have to get to bookstores. And that's the most difficult part. But there are ways to get around having your book tagged as something that's created. I'm going to say CreateSpace, but there are other platforms that writers use. But on CreateSpace, they give you your own ISBN, but the ISBN is listed as CreateSpace. The publisher is listed as CreateSpace. And as soon as a bookstore, not necessarily Barnes & Noble, because Barnes & Noble will sell them, Amazon will sell them, but the independent bookstores that are the most likely to give a writer time and space to come in, sign books, do a reading, whatever, they won't pick them up. So what you do is you buy your own ISBN and then you put it out on the self-publishing format, and it kind of masks If you create your own, I have a company, so my company will come up on the back of the books. See, I have my logo for Rewire Creatives on the back of my book, so I am the publisher.
Right.
But the ISBN comes up as CreateSpace.
Your
So,
ISBN still comes up as CreateSpace even though you bought the numbers yourself?
I didn't buy the numbers for myself. I
Oh.
didn't know that when I first started doing
so
that.
you use the CreateSpace numbers.
Right.
Oh, I didn't. I bought my own.
Yeah.
So I
well,
guess I
know
did
that
something
now.
right.
So I think either way,
know that
you're
now.
a starving artist, right? Either way, self-publishing or traditional, you're a starving artist.
We call ourselves poppers.
Hoppers.
But
The English
doing
version of starving artist.
self-published doesn't kill your soul. Doing traditional might kill your soul a little.
I don't think either one does. If you're doing what you love, you're not going to kill your soul.
Right. Why would you say kill your soul?
Well, because when they wanted her to change her name,
Oh,
they
right.
want, I'm going to make you a star. Your ego gets in the
But
way.
it's a-
Your head gets big.
It's a business. And that's one thing when I was a young writer, I didn't understand that. I understand it now. I've been in this business for a very long time. And I do understand it's a business. This is how they make their money. This is why they create covers that are going to pop out and attract the people that they want, that they see as their target audience, etc. So I understand that now. And that's what a self-published writer needs to understand as well. It's a business. So you have to put things in motion. I mean, I have a whole calendar that I use. I know what I'm going to do 6 months before a book comes out, 3 months, 2 months, 1 month. And then after the book comes out, there's a whole different set of tasks that you have to perform to make sure that the book stays in front of people. Right now, I'm still meeting with book clubs. In fact, before I went to Italy, I went to California and met with a book club there. The chef that I traveled to Italy with made a Thai dinner so that the book club had Thai food, because my latest book, this one here, is set in Thailand. And having a Thai meal and talking about the book is special. So you want to do things that are out of the box. One of the best things that I ever heard of, and this was an independently published book, not traditional, because I'm not a non-traditional, not self-published, but published by a small press. The woman that the title of the book was "I Love Men Who Wear Tasseled Loafers." And what she did that was so cool, I've never forgotten it, was she actually launched the book in a bar room. And, where people go to date and meet those men that they like, businessmen who wear tassel loafers.
shoes, yeah.
Yep. And she asked a chocolate company to make chocolates in the shape of tasseled loafers.
Oh, that's great.
I mean, so unusual. And obviously, for me anyways, unforgettable. Not
Right.
the usual bookmark or a sticker or something that, is inexpensive that you could pass out to everybody. She made that really special.
And something
So
that
you
was
kinda have to
specifically
think-
tied to the book.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. I have a friend right now, Leslie Zemeckis, who's got a new book called Feuding Fan Dancers, and it's about two burlesque women who had a battle. And she created a fan with the book cover on it, so that, it's just a paper fan with a wooden holder. Things like that, and people are not going to get rid of them.
And then what does she
I
do with
create-
those fans?
You wave them.
No, I know what you do with a fan, but I mean, so say she has a box of 50 of them, like I have a box of coffee mugs in my basement. Where does she give those out?
She passes them out at book signings.
At book signings.
Buy a book, get a fan.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I'm helping her promote the book in North Carolina, and I have a friend who's a burlesque singer. So she has a burlesque troupe. So the troupe is going to be part of one of the book signings, and we'll do performance.
That's cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know, is there a place to get a list of book clubs? How do you find the book clubs?
There's a lot of lists of book clubs. I hunted down, I went on Meetup, and I looked for book clubs in the cities that I was going to visit. And I actually connected with a huge one that has 800 groups, I guess, across the world. And it's called, oh boy, I'm going to blame this on jet lag, something Girls Book Club. And then I connected in Houston with a Houston book club. So I met all of them while I was there. There are tons of them on Facebook. Just search for them. Search on Twitter, Instagram, and just find the ones, first of all, that are where you live. And then secondly, connect with anybody that I literally pass a book to. I'll say, if you know of a book club, I'm great with coming and visiting with you. I love visiting with my book clubs or doing it via Skype. And I've gotten a lot that way. Now that's the best way, I think. Once you connect, to me, I've learned one thing with this particular new book. Every single connection you make, every one-on-one ripples. You meet one person, they're going to tell another one, another one, another one. You can't put a book on a bookshelf and have somebody say, oh, I know that person. I met that person.
Right. It's that old-fashioned kind of word of mouth
Exactly.
connection.
Exactly.
How do you justify traveling to a book club if there's 30 people in a book club? 30 people buying a book is not going to be enough to fly in and hang out with a book club. So how do you justify that as an expense?
Every single one of those people have friends. They're going to talk to people. To me, this is an investment in me, and I'm worth it. You're all worth it. And if I have the money, I don't always, but if I have the money, I will. I haven't had to spend money to go to a book club. My book clubs have.
Oh, looks like we may
have lost her
paid
there.
for me to go.
They paid for you to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We lost you there
And
for a second, Dawn.
A lot of the book clubs you can do Skype, with book clubs. You don't have to go. You have to, and the local ones that are here in the area, I have no problem driving 3 or 4 hours for a book club. That's not a problem. I have a couple actually in California that are reading the book now that said, oh, we'll bring you out. Fine and dandy. Bring me out. To me, that makes a lot of sense. You have to give yourself a budget and figure out what you're willing to spend.
Right.
And I think it's definitely worth it to sit down with a group of people and see their reaction to the book and know that they're going to go tell their friends. They're going to take pictures and put it on Facebook. They're going to talk about it on Twitter. They're going to do Instagram photos. And that is your advertising. That's basically advertising money.
And speaking of advertising, what do you think of Facebook ads?
So far, they're not so successful for me. I've spent some money on Facebook ads. In fact, I did a couple before the book came out. And while my numbers went up, I went through and noticed everybody who had, liked my Facebook page or whatever. And they were all in India, which doesn't help me very much.
Right. We are
thousands in India.
Yeah, because I bet they just pay for people to go on and like things. Yeah. We are getting short on time, but Dawn, we want to thank you so much for coming on, and I think talking about the book club aspect of marketing we've never really done before, so that was really helpful, and getting a sense of what a writing coach does, because that was another subject we hadn't really discussed. So thank you so much for taking the time to come on. And if you hang on for a second, we have a closing coming up, and then we can chat after.
Well, it was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you for listening, and thank you to the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. Please check out the Writer's Block on our Facebook page, and you can find us on your favorite podcast catcher. May you be inspired, feel empowered, and be well.
views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.